Hi everyone, it's Emmanuel Kadosh. I wanted to invite you all to subscribe to ILTV Plus, where you can find our daily news and updates about Israel. And not only that, but live feeds, entertainment, our kosher food show, and so much more. Needless to say, your subscription to ILTV Plus helps us grow and create more content while also supporting the state of Israel. Our app is available on all platforms and devices, so I'll see you guys there.
Hello and welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, United States President Joe Biden taking off and landing in Israel for a jam-packed visit across the region, his first trip to the Middle East since taking office in 2021. Meanwhile, Antiquities Authorities discovering a massive cache of ancient artifacts at a northern Israeli residence, the thousands of items looted from archaeological digs, and heading for black market abroad. Then finally, who am I and where did I come from? Answers to these age-old questions and more coming up with special help from MyHeritage. Over a year and a half into his first term in office, United States President Joe Biden finally making his way to the Middle East. The American leader preparing for a whirlwind itinerary across Israel, the PA, and Saudi Arabia, starting with Jerusalem tonight.
Every chance to return to this great country, where the ancient roots of the Jewish people date back to biblical times, is a blessing. Because the connection between the Israeli people and the American people is bone deep. It's bone deep. Generation after generation, that connection grows. We invest in each other. We dream together.
The red carpet rolled out, the King David Hotel in Jerusalem emptied, security massively boosted, and several major roadways closed. Israel pulling out all the stops and preparations for United States President Joe Biden's first official visit to the region since taking position in the Oval Office January 2021. But Israeli expectations for the outcomes of this visit as high as the levels of excitement. Biden and his delegation scheduled to meet with top Israeli officials Wednesday, followed by meetings in the PA on Thursday, and then a summit in Saudi Arabia Friday. The White House's goals including to declare a U.S.-Israel strategic partnership to address aggressions from Iran, but also to renew peace talks between Jerusalem and Ramallah, to initiate steps towards normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia, and to organize an alliance across the whole Middle East, again, to address threats from Iran, as well as to boost a new and growing regional economy. And to that end, Biden participating in an online summit in Saudi Arabia alongside the Saudis, the Israelis, and the Indians.
You once defined yourself as a Zionist. You said that you don't have to be a Jew in order to be a Zionist. And you were right. And in your case, a great Zionist and one of the best friends Israel has ever known.
The Palestinians, on the other hand, skeptical at best that any real gains from their perspective will be achieved. Here now with more on United States President Joe Biden's first official visit to Israel, political analyst and president of the Jerusalem Washington Center, Gideon Israel. Gideon, it's great to have you back with us. Thank you so much. Now,
see you.
All right, what do we know about Biden's goals for this trip and how feasible they might be?
Well, he has a few goals. First of all, the most important goal actually is not going to be in Israel, and that's going to be in Saudi Arabia. He wants the Saudis to produce more oil, so gas prices in America will go down. In Israel, obviously he wants to give those who care about the U.S.-Israel relationship a feeling that the United States has reaffirmed the relationship, that they are see eye to eye on Iran. And for that purpose, there's this Jerusalem Declaration. It does not seem so substantive. It seems more of things we already know. Also, we're not even sure how much they can actually talk about because the meeting with Prime Minister Lapid is only 30 minutes. When President Obama was here, he met with Netanyahu for more than 5 hours. There's also another one of the goals is to sort of either reaffirm or strengthen or the United States relationship with the Palestinians. For that purpose, President Biden is going to the Augusta Victoria Hospital in East Jerusalem, and also will meet with President Abbas. And this is playing to the constituency of the Democratic Party, who sees an interest that the United States should support a Palestinian state, not because it's in Israel's interest, but because the Palestinians have the right to an independent state. Now, the fact that he's going to East Jerusalem without Israeli officials, and it was reported that the administration rejected that Israel officials should go with them to East Jerusalem, is unprecedented in the sense that within the borders of Israel, President Biden is sort of promoting Palestinian rights as if they have rights to a state or historic rights to East Jerusalem.
All right, so and we know that as part of that, he's been pushing, of course, to reopen the Palestinian consulate to the United States in Jerusalem, and we know that Israeli officials are not really going to let that happen. So how does that play into this, political? Theater, I guess you could call it.
Well, I think what's kind of going to happen is that they will open up a Palestinian affairs section within the embassy in Jerusalem that'll only serve the Palestinians. But it's important to note that the change that's happened in the Democratic Party over the past 10 to 15 years, it used to be that the push for a two-state solution was to solve a security problem, problem, the Israelis and the Palestinians. How can we figure out how they can live in peace? Today, the line that the Democrats are pushing is the line that the Palestinians are entitled to a state. It's their historic right, and all of this going to East Jerusalem, the hospital, and trying to get this this Palestinian consulate in Jerusalem. It's all part of that broader goal.
So there seems to be a lot of focus, at least while Biden is in Israel and in the Palestinian Authority, on addressing Palestinian rights and the two-state solution. But how does that factor in with the fact that he's only meeting then with Lapid for 15 minutes? And what does that say about the United States' priorities?
What it says is that either that maybe the people around President Biden don't think he can handle meetings for too long. I mean, certainly to get into Air Force One, go halfway across the world to meet with the Prime Minister for 15 minutes or half an hour, to meet with opposition leader for 15 minutes. It's a very small amount of time. It's kind of abnormal, but. That's what it is. Obviously there's so many issues to discuss,
right,
which makes it, there's whether there's the Palestinian issue, there's the technology cooperation, there's Iran, there's what's going on with Lebanon and the Karish gas. So there's so many things to talk about, and you ask yourself, how can you have a serious visit, where you're meeting with them for, the Prime Minister for half an hour, and you're taking a 15-hour rest, from tonight until tomorrow morning. So, all
right. So, all right. Now going back to the deals with Lapid, if you have the Biden administration talking with Lapid about creating all these partnerships, particularly about Iran. First of all, again, with a 15-minute speech or 15-minute meeting, how are they going to address these issues, and what might they actually come to in terms of agreements when they have such a big disparity in their approach?
Well, I don't think there will be any agreements that'll come out. I think the Americans have made their position clear. The Israelis have made their position clear. The Israelis the Israeli government doesn't think that the JCPOA should be re-entered. The Americans have been pushing for that. We hear that that they might not reach agreement, but we don't exactly know what's going on behind the scenes, and they may be using that as sort of a ploy to calm those in opposition to re-entering the agreement. So there'll be some nice optics, like we saw at Ben Gurion Airport. There'll be some statements reaffirming. I think some Israelis will at least feel good about President Biden's visit. But then again, the part with the Palestinians, it's kind of undermining Israel. And for Biden, the big important meeting is in Saudi Arabia. Will the Saudis agree to pump more oil?
All right. Gideon, Israel, thank you so much again for joining me.
Thank you.
Now, from another perspective on Biden's visit to the Middle East, It said that the fastest way to peace is through shared interest, and in particular, economic interests. Joining me to discuss is Director of Innovation Diplomacy at Startup Nation Central, Neveh Shachar. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, Israel and the United States are announcing a strategic partnership in advanced technologies. What exactly does that entail, and how can Israel's innovation be leveraged best for the sake of regional diplomacy?
Obviously, I think that it's a great opportunity for both countries to use this bridge of innovation in order to advance mutual challenges. Even the fact that we're started to think as a region after the Abraham Accords, we started to address these challenges together, and by that, I think that innovation plays a significant role of being a major tool to advance mutual challenges.
All right, so, there are those who argue that the United States presidents are often too ambitious when it comes to Middle East policy. Do you think that Biden is falling maybe into that same trap?
It's always interesting to predict how U.S. policy will affect the Middle East. It's not always what is stated or declared that is moving the wheels, obviously. President Biden lands and he visits a very different Middle East than the last time he was in office. The Middle East had changed immensely in the form of new alliances and new opportunities. As I said, even the fact that we're started to think as a region, I think that innovation plays as a bridge for that, and we've seen it in the UAE and Bahrain. But definitely, this is where Biden and the U.S. can facilitate the engagement to, for example, identify a specific sector or mutual challenge where Israelis, Saudis, and perhaps even another regional neighbor can work together.
So is the secret to success for innovation diplomacy in the hands of government or a free market and independent actors? For example, of course, we know that Israeli businesses were working with Emiratis long before the Abraham Accords were officially signed.
Definitely. I think that the private sector and individuals can play a huge role in even prior to any agreements. We've seen it with the UAE. And I think that even now, as you can see, that we're progressing a lot with innovation building in Bahrain and the UAE. We definitely see the same opportunities arise also in Saudi and other places, and we're starting to talk about those mutual things. And Saudi is in a huge transformation to progress to shift their economy to innovation-based economy, and I think Israel is a very good partner for that. And I think that we've seen very interesting technologies that can be used in this transformation, and the private sector will play a significant role in this domain.
So, okay, so what are some of the biggest opportunities and even the priorities when it comes to new innovation and sharing that innovation, and what are maybe some of the companies that are shining in those fields? Are we talking about water and agriculture, or are we talking about security, especially when we're talking about the Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, I think that both, but we're starting to think, as you said, like security is in a more broad way.
Right.
Security is in food security and food shortage, and climate crisis. So we'll see a lot of technologies in ag tech, in food tech. We're starting to with the rise in Israel with the climate tech sector, which is very interesting. We see interest in health, and the Saudis are doing amazing work on defining and having a strategy which is very wide in terms of the involvement of many sectors combined together to solve this transformation. And in each part of their strategy, we see very unique Israeli companies that can fit and really make a difference in what is all about regionally.
All right, Neveh Shachar, thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Moving on, the Israel Police and Antiquities Authority finding a massive private collection of looted artifacts that would make a museum blush. ILTV's Kayla Everlin reporting.
Thousands of archaeological artifacts, including bronze, silver, gold coins, jewelry, ancient weapons, spearheads, and seals with Greek inscriptions among just some of the looted antiquities discovered in a private collection at a home in northern Israel. Police arriving at the Afula property along with investigators from the Israel Antiquities Authority after having received a tip regarding an illicit trafficking operation of culturally significant items. And likewise, several international law enforcement bodies have now been informed and involved in the matter. The suspect, meantime, admitting to his crimes during questioning. According to reports, the suspect would search through archaeological excavation sites across the country with a metal detector and steal items for his collection. Additionally, some of the looted artifacts being smuggled abroad to the United States and put up for auction. Then, in an arguably bigger blow, the IAA Theft Prevention Authorities saying that the man was already known for such crimes, having been convicted and punished for looting in the past. But officials saying that apparently he did not learn his lesson and he will be charged with criminal offences. That said, while the suspect caught and thousands of artifacts recovered, irreparable damage already done, as the provenance and chain of custody of these antiquities lost forever. The suspect's actions damaging archaeological evidence and removing them from their historical or cultural context.
And now a very special treat that I, for one, have been very anxiously waiting for. Everyone wants to know more about their ancestry, where they came from, who they came from, and how they connect to the world at large. Well, joining me now to help me answer some of these questions, Director of PR from MyHeritage, Sarah Vanunu. Sarah, it is my pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so first of all, let's cover the basics. What are the biggest reasons that somebody would want to explore their family history, and what kind of records does MyHeritage provide?
Sure. Well, I'll start with the second part. MyHeritage is the leading global discovery platform for exploring family history. So why someone would want to come to such a platform is, of course, to explore their own family history, build their family trees, understand more about their ethnicity, find relatives, both living and deceased, and to make use of a massive database. I'm talking about 18 billion historical digitized records. This can include, birth certificate, death certificate, population records, you name it. Not to mention one of the world's largest consumer DNA databases. So with the use of matching technologies, one can find their family history and their relatives.
So we're talking about technology, and I know that I took a DNA test, a nice spit swab. What did we find?
We did take a look at your DNA, with your permission, of course.
Thank you.
What do you think that we found? Do you have any idea?
I know that my mother's side comes from Iraq and back generations, according to the story, and that my father's side, the running joke is that if you stick a pin somewhere in Europe, we're from there. So that's about the extent.
Well, let's take a look.
Yes.
So what we see here is that you're 50.7% Ashkenazi Jewish.
Okay.
You're 38.2% Mizrahi Jewish.
Okay.
These are your two major ethnic breakdowns. And especially the genetic group from Iraq, this matches perfectly with the family tree that we built you.
Okay. So, all right. So then let's look at some of the other research here. I'd love to know what you found on my dad's side as well, because you said, what was it, 50.7?
Other way around. Yeah.
Oh,
50.7 Ashkenazi.
50.7 Ashkenazi. Yes. So I'm guessing that's all
your,
my dad.
Yeah, your paternal side of the family came from Central and Eastern Europe.
Okay.
And your maternal side of the family comes from Kirkuk, Iraq.
Wow.
So let's dive in.
Yes, please. Yeah, like what did they do? What did you find out? Like, where did my father's paternal side live? Like, who are they?
What languages do they speak? What do they do?
Exactly.
All of that we can find. Your ancestors from your father's side, they've come from Russian, Austro-Hungarian, and German empires from the end of the 19th century.
Wow.
They settled in New York. They were involved in the clothing industry as cutters and salesmen, as well as in the grocery industry and railway industries. What we see here in the 1910 US Census are your great-great-grandparents living in the Bronx. We see Jacob, 39 years old, and his wife Henrietta Porras, born Silverman. We see their two sons, Harry and Sydney. Sydney is your great-grandfather.
Oh, man.
The records show that Jacob is a native of Rom Yiddish. So this means that he's Romanian and native language is Yiddish. Jacob was a wholesale merchant in groceries. Your great-great-grandmother, Henrietta, she's born in New York.
Okay.
And her father is listed as native Rus Polish. This means, meaning from Poland, but from the Russian part of Poland.
Interesting.
And her mother was born in Germany.
All right, so is it possible to find out like what they looked like? You know, do we have photos of them?
Yes. So what we see in World War I draft registrations is your great-grandfather Sidney Ross.
No kidding.
And we see a description. He's 21 years old. He's neither tall nor short. He's slender.
Oh.
Dark brown eyes, black hair, not bald.
This is wild.
So we have a nice description of him.
Wow, but they so they described him, but they didn't. Did they not? Yeah, they had cameras back then, no?
We have another record that we came across with a picture of your grandfather, Robert Porras.
Oh yeah.
Do you consider yourself a hard worker, Erin?
Not as hard as him. I heard stories.
Robert had a definite idea about work, as you can see in this 1944 DeWitt Clinton High School yearbook.
Oh my gosh.
Where he says, work and play don't mix, so why work? This is Robert.
That's so funny.
This is your grandfather. And we can also see what some of his classmates in this yearbook.
Oh my gosh. All right, so like what about my mother's side?
If we jump to your mother's side, she's from Kirkuk, Iraq. This is a town about 148 miles north of Baghdad. There were around 200 Jewish families there. They first settled at the turn of the 17th century. All the Jews of this town immigrated to Israel in 1950 and 1951. So to bring your family history to life, we found a photo of your great-grandfather, Zadok Cohen. This image, it was black and white and quite blurry, but we've managed to enhance and repair and colorize the image.
Oh my gosh.
In addition, we went one step further with your great-grandmother, Tafcha Cohen, Shemesh, and we've enhanced, colorized, and animated her picture.
Oh my gosh. You can make it move? That's
you can make
insane.
it move.
Oh my gosh. All right, like, so what, how did you go about finding all these things? Like, what's the process?
Well, anyone can go to myheritage.com. Although we did the research for you because you asked us to do it, you don't have to be a genealogist or a professional researcher. Any novice or amateur that just has basic information about their family, their parents, their grandparents, they just put it in, and quickly, due to matching technologies, the system starts to feed them information.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm so happy you came in here. This has been an amazing experience, and I want everybody at home to feel the way I do right now. So if you actually go to myheritage.com/ILTV, you get a 14-day free trial for all of the MyHeritage family tree and research tools. This is an exclusive discount for ILTV viewers. Sarah, thank you so much again for coming in.
Thank you.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Mainly clear skies expected across the country tonight, with a mix of clear and partly cloudy skies expected tomorrow. Then this evening's temperatures ranging from 17 to 24 degrees Celsius or 63 to 75 Fahrenheit. And tomorrow, top temperatures reaching a hot 34 degrees Celsius or 94 Fahrenheit. And that's it for today's news. For more updates from Israel and around the world, make sure to check out our website, ILTV.tv, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter and join us on our streaming platform, ILTV Plus. And you can catch that on all of your devices. I'm Aaron Porras. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.
It's Emmanuel Kadosh. I wanted to invite you all to subscribe to ILTV Plus, where you can find our daily news and updates about Israel. And not only that, but live feeds, entertainment, our kosher food show, and so much more. Needless to say, your subscription to ILTV Plus helps us grow and create more content while also supporting the state of Israel. Our app is available on all platforms and devices, so I'll see you guys there.